Howdy, howdy, and welcome back. We are about to start our second Workshop Wednesday of 2022. Happy New Year for those that have not heard that enough times already. This week's edition is a getting started topic, and we're going to talk about how to use Google Analytics reports to actually guide your actions. Now, before we get too far into this, welcome. If this is your first Workshop Wednesday, my name is Chris Mercer. Everybody calls me Mercer. You should as well. And I'm the co-founder of a company called measurementmarketing.io. And whether you found us through podcasts and talks that we're out there giving, or we share some of our content with other platforms like CXL Institute, Social Media Examiner, Digital Marketer, Measure Summit, maybe you are already a member of measurementmarketing.io. Remember, we've got two memberships. We've got the free one, and we also have a paid version. So however you found us, we are happy that you are here. It's our job to help people like you figure out how to use these tools to actually improve your own results. And specifically, we're going to talk today about Google Analytics and, of course, the Measurement Marketing Academy, which we will talk about at the end of this particular training. It is our flagship just-in-time learning platform for all things measurement marketing, including using Google Analytics. So we'll talk about that as we wrap things up. Of course, with all of these workshops, we always start with the one thing. Remember, that's the thing that's the most important thing, the thing that you can take action on, because it is too terribly easy to get overwhelmed by watching all these different trainings, and you learn all these different bells and whistles about, in this case, Google Analytics, and then you just get frustrated because you didn't really build any skills. You just got exposed to a bunch of new information. That's not what our goal is. Our goal is not to expose you to new things. It's to actually help you to build your skills. So focus on the one report that we go over, and you go, oh, that one report, I'm going to do that now. Practice that. Then come back, rewatch this workshop, which is why we make them publicly available, so that you can pick up another new one thing. And that's how we actually build skills without getting overwhelmed and frustrated. All right, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Getting started. How to use Google Analytics reports to guide actions. Now, if you have gone into Google Analytics and you've seen a bunch of reports and your eyes kind of get cross-eyed and you're like, I don't know what any of this stuff means. One report seems to contradict another. I get it. It happens, but sometimes that's because the account's not set up properly. Sometimes it's just because you're not quite sure what everything back there is for. So this is a getting started topic. We're going to go through and we're going to tackle the different sections of Google Analytics, some specific reports, and how you can use those reports to actually take actions that will, better than likely chance, improve the results that you're getting from your marketing. Now, of course, we're going to dive in with a quick review of the framework. It's very important. You plan out your measurement, you build out your measurement, then you launch, meaning you use your measurement system. We are all marketing in the blind when we start. We're trying to get to a point where just using a system, just going through a series of steps that we don't really have to think about, but just going through those steps produces revenue and profits for us. That's what we're trying to do. How do we do that? Well, first, we ask the right questions, right? The questions, what we call results and how questions. Then we gather the information needed to get answers to those questions. And then we think through, okay, when we have the information and we get those answers, what actions will we be taking in order to improve the results, right? So we think about all that stuff. All that's done before you open up Google Analytics. It's the plan. Very important. Once you have your plan, then, of course, you are using tools like Google Analytics. You got to make sure the results are actually being measured, and you'll see some examples of that in today's training. You got to make sure that the traffic is being properly identified using UTMs. So that's super important, because if you skip that, you're not going to be able to answer certain questions. And then you have to make sure that you have what we call a setup. It means that Google Analytics, people think, and this is not your fault if this has happened to you, because I get it. People think that Google Analytics, you just sort of turn it on and then you start using it, because it's so easy to activate the tool that people confuse activating the tool with actually setting up the tool. And setup is different. Setup is two parts. First, you activate it, and then you have to customize it to make sure it's telling a proper story. Then it's set up, right? Then you have what we call setup. Then at that point, you can listen to the conversation that's happening between the users and the website. You then can forecast what actually the conversation should be next week, next month. And then you can measure against your forecast. That's how you optimize. That's how you know which specific parts of the customer journey need a little bit of help. And then you can focus your marketing efforts on improving those. So that is the measurement marketing framework in a nutshell. Now we're going to go ahead and dive in today specifically to Google Analytics, because that's what we're talking about, these reports. Now we're going to do both Universal and Google Analytics 4, because that is the new kid on the block. And we're going to kind of go and show the Universal first, then we'll go into what the equivalent report or section might be in Google Analytics 4. And then we'll go from there. So to start out, this is the home screen. In Google Analytics 4, the home screen looks like this. I don't think either one of these is useful from an action-oriented standpoint. They're just not. I'm not coming in here to see an overall anything. I don't care. I want to come into Google Analytics to get very specific actions, so I don't have to waste my time looking at a million reports. I'm comfortable with numbers, but even I don't want to be staring at numbers all day long. I have more important things to do, like adjust copy or offers or tweak the traffic, all that sort of stuff, as I'm sure you're due. However, these reports are here in a certain organization. They're here to answer specific questions, and they can lead to actions if we are using those reports knowing what actions we're about to take. So we're going to go first into real time, and I'm not going to go into the deep dive details of all the different real-time reports that are back here, but just know that real-time reports are here, and the overview is important because the overview report tells you who's currently on the page. Now, or not who, I should say, but the users that are currently on the page in real time. Now, does this matter from an action standpoint? It does. What actions can you take? It does, because the actions you can take are testing. And that's really it. So if you're testing your setup and you want to see, like, is this working? Like right now, we know somebody is on the measuremarketing.io homepage. It's not me. So thank you to whoever that happens to be. But we can see that the page is working. So the only thing I use real time for is this thing working? Like, is it turned on, right? Do I have the code on the page? And clearly I do in this case. In Google Analytics 4, the real-time reports are right up here. So they're at the very tippy top here. And remember, Google Analytics 4 is a little slower than it once was. And you can see there's more users here. Why is that? Because in Universal Analytics, we are able to better filter. It's a much better platform right now than Google Analytics 4 is, even though it's still January 2022. I was hoping it would be ready for production, but it just isn't. Google Analytics 4 is not yet ready for production, but you need to be practicing it, which is what we are doing. So we've got our Google Analytics 4, and you can see it shows 8 users. Is that because something's broken? No, not really. It's just because we can't properly filter out everybody we want to filter out with, because it's just not easy to do that yet. It will be. I hear rumors there's going to be other features coming out that'll make it easier. But that's why the difference is. So don't get caught up on the differences. They are two completely different platforms. They are not the same in any way, shape, or form, other than they both have the name Google Analytics. But remember, GA4 is a completely separate platform. So if you haven't started using it, you got to get on it, because it's going to take you some time to learn it, at least 6 months. No joke, at least 6 months to get comfortable with it. So we have our Google Analytics 4 real-time reports. Again, same thing. I can see, different pages. The only difference is in the real-time reports here, it's not as quick and easy. I have to go into page view, and then I can see the different page locations that pull up. And again, this takes time, unfortunately, with GA4, so it's not as fast. But you'll see eventually it'll say different parameters that'll show up here with page location, and then I would know what pages are actually showing up. So there's other ways you can do that in GA4, but out of the box, that's kind of what you have to do. And again, it takes time, so we're not going to mess with that for the purposes of today's training. Just know that the real-time reports are there to say, okay, is this working? And if it is, awesome, no action required. If it's not, the action is go back to your setup and figure out why tag managers maybe not firing Google Analytics, or why the script isn't on that particular page if that's how you're doing it, or why the plugin or integration that you thought was working isn't working. So those would be the actions you can take with real-time reports. So remember, real-time is all about, is it working? The actions you can take is basically just kind of code-based, implementation-based setup stuff. So that's that. We're going to go back to the respective home pages now, just so we can kind of start from scratch. So that's the one action, right, that you can take from real-time reports is basically tweaking the code and the implementations. Now, the next action we might want to take is around in the audience reports. There's a couple of different actions that I think are the primary ones that I would focus on. So first is under the demographics. This is just making sure that who we think we're talking to, who we think we're marketing to, is actually who we're marketing to. So in the audience reports, you come into demographics, go to overview. I think it's a perfect report for that. It's very few times I like the overview report, but I do like the overview report in demographics, because very quickly you can see the general age and the general mix of gender. So this is important. If I was, let's say this is a golf website and I was targeting the older male demographic, then if I came in and I saw this as a result, I'd be like, whoa, we are off. There's a lot younger audience. Like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the audience is super young and mostly female in this case, or 60% male and 40% female in this case. And if that's the case, I might have some insights that I can take. It might be like, wow, I thought I was targeting the sort of traditional older male demographic, but maybe there's a younger audience that's coming to the blog, for example, that's interested in golf because maybe golf's got this huge upswing. Well, that can help open up markets. That would be the action that I would investigate. The opposite could also be true, meaning maybe my targeting is off on my traffic. So if I know, I'm like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. The kids don't care about golf these days. It's just still the older male demographic. Then I would go to my targeting of my traffic and be like, why am I bringing in all this stuff? Maybe it's just Google organic. Maybe it's just paid traffic that's not targeted properly. But I would want to be able to tell my traffic vendor that and say, hey, stop targeting the cheap clicks because they're just a bunch of, kids that don't really care about this, but you're bringing them to my site. And that's not useful. I want to make sure I'm talking to the people who really want to participate with the brand or the products and services of the brand. And the demographics and overview report is really good for that. Now, the second component of this, I know it's getting started topic, but I wanted to show you this because you should be using these, is the segment. So you can come into the segment and then I can say, well, I want to create a segment. So we have the all segment. I can go to organic. I'm just going to type up here organic. And you can see there's organic segments that are here. So I can say, I just want to see what the organic traffic is. And you can create a segment for paid traffic. Again, we're not going to go into the details in this particular workshop on that. But I can go through. Now, if you see this happen where it says, it's all of a sudden no data. All that is telling you is Google Analytics is saying, I didn't have enough people to effectively model what this was. So all you need to do is you expand your date range. Remember, we're just looking at the last 7 days by default. So I'm just going to pull it out for the last month. This should give us enough data. Not yet. Let's go back a little more. We'll pull in a number of months here because we should see that. And now I'm going to question my segment if this happens. I'm just going to remove this. I'm going to see if there's one other segment that's back that it might be a little easier. And I'm not going to edit this part out of the video because this is just what it's like sometimes. So I'm going to go to search. Let's see if search traffic is pulling us up. And I always try to use like a built-in segment if I can, but it's still not working the way I want it to. So let's go to remove this. I'm going to try to finally, this is what I get for trying to show you a slightly more advanced feature saying, oh, it's not going to be a big deal. No problem. And of course it is. So I'm going to go to traffic sources. We're going to go to medium, contains. Actually, contains is perfect. And I'm going to say organic just to make sure. I'm sure I've done this a million times in our own account. Organic traffic only. And then we're going to see if this hopefully doesn't glitch and gives us the demographics that we're looking for, because I do this all the time. I don't know why this isn't working if it wouldn't. So we have 1,000 users. We should have plenty to model. Let's find out. We're going to give it some time to process. And nope, it's not going to cooperate today. All right. Needless to say, try segments anyway, because it should work for you. And what's cool about it is it will, and again, at this point, I might actually edit that whole part out of the video because I wanted to be able to show it to you working. So those of you here live, this is why you show up live, because you get to see all this stuff. But it will, I do segments for paid traffic. I do one for organic traffic. I do one for email traffic. And then I can compare and contrast the results, because sometimes you find email is bringing in the right audience because they're email. They're definitely more engaged with the brand, but organic is bringing in a whole different audience. But there could be opportunities there. So that would be the actions I would look for from the demographics perspective. Second, is in GA4, I should say. If you come into GA4, where the demographics information, it's down at the bottom where it says user and then demographics. And then you go to demographic overview. And again, you're going to find GA4 is definitely a platform that loves to overwhelm you with junk. Currently, it's going to be a challenge getting through GA4. It just is for now. However, the information is here. Not anywhere near as easy as Universal, not as fingertip friendly, but it is. So the important stuff, which I don't think most people care about country, unless you're an international brand. Small businesses probably don't. I don't think this is an important thing to have here, but this stuff is. So there's your gender breakdowns. So you can see gender here, and then you can see age here. So it's, again, not as easy to see what you want to see, but it is there in GA4. So just know that's where that is. There are things called comparisons that are kind of the equivalent of segments. Again, we're not going to go down the rabbit hole on the segment stuff, but just know that you can kind of do the same thing there in a perfect world and be able to see, okay, how does organic different from the demographics than my email traffic is, especially compared to your email traffic. Because if you've got any sort of email traffic coming into your list or to your Google Analytics, it can be enlightening to see, wow, these are the people who are engaged with the brand versus people who are just coming in through organic reading a blog post. They are sometimes radically different people. And that can lead you to insights, whether there's a new market that maybe you might be able to explore, or maybe you got to retarget why Google Organic is, or Google, let's say, is sending you all of this traffic that's not really who you want. Maybe there's ways you can improve your SEO for that. Those would be the action steps that you could take there. So now we're going to go back to our respective home screens in both of these, and we'll talk about the next little area. Now, the next one, I think, again, from an insights perspective, right? So when you think about the insights that we can take or the actions that we can take that we're looking for from these reports. So we talked about real time, which is more implementation things to see if you need to connect the dots on a code. We talked about the audience with the demographics in terms of, are we talking to the people that we think we're talking to? That's a good thing to trust but verify, what we call TBVing. And then you also have what I think is another really good one is this mobile report. Again, mobile and then overview. This is in Universal Analytics. So in mobile and then overview, again, still under the audiences report, this tells us by device category. So desktop, mobile, tablet. No need to go down the rabbit hole yet on iOS and all that other stuff. Don't get involved in that when you're just starting out. But here is just, again, you're validating what you think you are talking to. Is it who we're talking to? Now, it's not so much in terms of age and demographic or the age and gender, because that's under demographics, but it is important to think about the device types. At measurementmarketing.io, we definitely are talking to a desktop audience. That's who we expect to be talking to. And clearly, 82% of our users are desktop devices. So we know that we're talking to who we're talking on the device in the environment that they are. Desktop environment is very different than a mobile environment, which is very different than a potential tablet environment. Mobile is going to be a highly distracted environment, not conducive to learning Google Analytics and Tag Manager stuff, right? So desktop is what we would expect it to be, and desktop is what it is. Now, you might find there's a difference there, in which case the action would be, okay, all of a sudden, I'll give you an example. If we redesigned our membership site years ago. When we were going through this massive redesign, it came up that we should have mobile versions of it. And everyone's like, yeah, we got to do mobile. Why? Because that's what everybody says. You have to do mobile. So the first thing we did is we checked our analytics. Do we need to go spend another $30,000 and pay developers to make a mobile-only site? And the answer is no, we really don't, because most people are not using it, not the member site anyway. And that makes sense. Does it mean that no one uses it on mobile? No, of course not. So we made it roughly responsive and people can still use it, but it wasn't, we didn't put all the resources into it that people were saying you needed to do because our particular product didn't require that. Our users weren't using desktop. They still are not using desktop. That was the forecast a couple of years ago, and it has maintained itself that way. That's just because of what we teach. You might have a different experience. Your website might be more mobile focused, and you might find back here that maybe you don't think it is mobile focused, but it is. And people are using it on mobile, or they're trying to. And then you start going, okay, I need to really figure this thing out. Now, the other thing I'm going to give you, again, little pro tip here with Universal, is when you're looking at device category, if you check out the landing pages, so you go to landing pages, this is currently something that's really easier to do on Universal, not so much on GA4, possible, just not easy. But here you can do device category and landing page, and then you can see what pages the different device categories are. So if you wanted to, you can see what mobile is doing, just sort it, you just click on this block and it'll sort it. And then you can scroll down and see all the different desktop and all the different tablet and all the different mobile. You can see down here, I got 264, so I'm just going to expand that out. Again, very fast, easy way to go through and see what people are actually searching for on the particular device. So if you get surprised and you're like, wow, there's a lot of mobile traffic. I didn't realize that. What pages are they seeing? You can see. Are they seeing? In our case, you can see it's all public. It's not a lot of member pages that are back here. So because mobile devices right now are just sending traffic. And we're like, cool, as long as it's working, it's working. And as long as those pages look good, we're good. No actions required. But if there's a page there that needs to look better on mobile, we'll take effort to do that, especially because we can tie it down to the results that are happening on the other side here. Okay, so in GA4, we go into tech. So again, still under user, because it's about what the users are using. You go to tech, and then under tech, you can see tech overview. Again, general information. It's a lot of different details. Not all of them will you need. But you can come down here and you can still see desktop, mobile, and tablet. So that's where you can kind of get that idea and say, okay, percentage-wise, 85%. So they're both basically giving me the useful truth, right? Roughly over 80% of our users are using desktop. 20% are using something else. That's kind of what it's been like for us for years. I would expect that to maintain for at least another few more years. But I'll be on the lookout for a change. So if something, well, I check this again, maybe in 6 months or whatever it is, I come into this, I would expect it to be a certain percentage. If it's off, if that ratio ever changes here, I know I'm going to go take some technical action, right? To improve the website design, or maybe I have to go to a mobile only or whatever the thing is for the particular product or service that I'm checking for. But that's how you use those reports. So now we'll go back to the home screen on both. So now we've talked about 3 different actions we can take right now. One is on audience targeting. One is on maybe the website and the responsiveness of the website. The other one is just on implementation issues, which is the real-time reports. So we have just those 3 actions with a couple reports. Now, my favorite one by far, and if you watched any of our trainings at all, you probably have already come across this. My favorite report in Google Analytics is the source medium report. So we go to acquisition, because it's all about acquiring users, right? Where the users are coming from. Then you go to all traffic, then source medium. In this one report, and if you're going to pick one report, if you only could use one report in Google Analytics, this is the one. For sure, beyond a shadow of a doubt, because it answers most of the questions you will ever have, and it can lead to a lot of really good actions. So this one shows where the traffic's coming from, how much of that traffic you're getting, the engagement metrics, like how is that traffic engaging with the site, and then the results metrics, right? How much money are we making, or in the case of goals, when you have goals set up, what goals are being achieved by which traffic source. Now, a quick caveat to this report here. This particular one is only as useful as you have customized your Google Analytics. So if you have no e-commerce set up and you have no goals back here, well, you're not going to be able to measure two results. So you have to make sure that you've set up your results, which is why we make results the first step of a build. You got to make sure you define the results. Then you got to make sure that the traffic is identified. For example, I can tell the difference of email traffic. You might not be able to. We're using UTMs to do that so we can see all of our different emails. I can also separate out email traffic from our partner or / affiliate traffic. I can see the YouTube social traffic. These are all things that we have customized using UTMs, so we can get a little bit better visibility into the customer journey because we've better defined our traffic and we've better defined the results we're looking for from that traffic. So because we can do that, this report gives us the ability to do a lot more actions. If you come into your report and you're seeing stuff that's not all that useful, or you really can't get the insights, it might not be the report's fault. It might be that you have to customize your setup a little more. So meaning creating what we call ACE goals. So in our case, it's the Academy page. I can flip this to the Academy page and I can see which traffic sources are good at making people aware of the Academy. Not getting them to buy. That's not the point of this goal. This goal is, are they aware that there's even a thing called the Academy? And we fire this goal whenever somebody loads on the Academy page. So now I can see which traffic sources are really good about making people aware. I can then see which people are really good at making them actually engage, meaning go to the cart. So they look to the page and they cart. Obviously, a lot less are doing that, which is fine. But I can see that the traffic sources, which ones are really good at doing that. And then finally, I can see which traffic sources are really good at actually closing the deal, right? In other words, getting people to purchase. So I can see that along the way. Now, in this report, a little bit of napkin math is all it takes to start to figure out, well, which traffic sources are much better at closing the deal? Which traffic sources are naturally better at making people aware? Which traffic sources are naturally better at getting them to engage, in this case, to a cart page view? When I know that, I can start to think about how the different traffic sources can be used together, which helps me adjust my targeting on my messaging, because I'm not going to, use an email to make people aware of the Academy, because that email might be better at better designed to give them reasons to purchase a product. And I can already know that maybe they're more aware already of that product because maybe Facebook made them aware, or maybe Google Organic made them aware, so I can build out those different things. But if I don't know that's even happening, then I'm just guessing. And I don't like guessing. I like knowing that there's a better than average chance that I'm going to move the needle in a week or in days from now, because I'm about to take this action. And that's what this report helps us to do. So again, the source medium report, we have lots of videos on source medium. You just kind of Google for them, or if you're on the YouTube channel, you can search for them there. If you're an Academy members, just search in the Academy members area. You'll see everything else pops up there, plus the win courses that talk about it. But the source medium report is a powerful, powerful, powerful report, because in one place, it's who is sending you traffic, and then how much of traffic are they sending you? How is that traffic engaging? Kind of quality of the traffic is what I kind of think about this as. And then what are the results of all of that traffic? And then all I'm doing is I'm asking myself, like, this traffic was supposed to create a certain result, like maybe cause people to purchase. Is it doing that? Right? Now, not every single email we send has anything to do with the Academy. Sometimes it's just to members for logging in, or for Workshop Wednesday notifications or something like that. So not everything is designed for the Academy. But I can use secondary dimensions and other things to go through here and find the specific emails that are designed to sell the Academy. And then I can measure and say, are you guys doing your job? Right? I treat each of these little blocks as like a little virtual salesperson. Like, this salesperson's job is to get them to close on the Academy. Is it doing its job? Google Organic, it might have a job of getting people aware of the Academy. So it doesn't close the deal, because it can't really do that all that well, but it does make them aware of the Academy. Or does it? That's what the source media report helps me to determine. I can go back here, flip it to this particular goal, again, because I have it set up to do this, and I can start to see a story. Oh, I made 500 people aware. Of those 500 people in that same session, how many ended up purchasing? Was Google Organic doing? Oh, 14 of those 500. All right, that's not bad for a little organic traffic, right? So I've got that potential coming through, but really I would rely on email, right? So this is what the source media report's for. It's to see, this is the most powerful report, I think, by far, and it leads to the most actions that you can take because you're able to see a story and connect the dots between traffic and the results. But remember, this one requires work on your behalf first because you have to customize your Google Analytics. Because if you're not setting up your results or measuring for results, then it can't obviously tie anything to results. And if you're not using UTMs properly, not just using them, but structuring them correctly. We've got the traffic tracking toolkit, by the way, that talks all about that. A free member tool for those of you that have that in the toolbox. But you structure it properly so that they naturally come together to tell a story. Now, let me show you where this is in our GA4. So in GA4, you go to acquisition, which is just like in Universal. Then there's two different ones. GA4 is a little different. It's one of the reasons I like GA4. I don't like where it is currently, but I like where it's headed. And where it's headed is it measures user acquisition. So what was the traffic source that acquired the user in the first place? Then there's traffic acquisition. The way to think about this is the session. So the actual visit. What was the traffic source for the visit? So the closest thing to the source medium report, because the source medium report Universal Analytics is just the visit. It shows what traffic source created this session and then what happened in that session, right? That's what this is doing. So this equivalent is this traffic acquisition report, actually. So you click on traffic acquisition. Again, it's a little, clunky in the beginning. Takes a little bit of time to load up with GA4. I would imagine that would get faster with time. But if we scroll down, you'll see this little table that's there. And this is the same essential thing. You've got source medium. So we have all of that. You've got the number of users in this case that's created, and the number of actual sessions, visits created by this traffic source. Remember, the UTMs that you're using work both for Universal and for Google Analytics 4, so you don't have to do anything different. One handles the other, which is kind of cool. So you see all this different stuff here. Then as we come across, you'll start to see engagement metrics. So this is kind of the quality stuff, like how long did they stick around? One thing I really like with GA4 is this engagement time, because you can set this up. So ours, the default is 10 seconds. So you can change that if you want. I think ours is still 10 seconds in our account. We didn't even change that. So this is basically anybody who's this engaged sessions right here, anybody that's been more than 10 seconds. That's really cool. So I can see how many sessions per users were actually engaged. I can see the number of other events, which are activities. So I can see all of that different stuff. And I can, of course, see percentages from engagement rate, which again is the number of people over 10 seconds. So by default, in this case, 10 seconds, but you can adjust that number. So you have all of that engagement, the quality type of traffic metrics, then the results. So we have the events that are in GA4. Remember, in GA4, everything's an event. So I can go to a very specific type of event, how many purchased, how many scrolled, how many started the session, which is kind of like a landing page thing, video metrics, whatever you're measuring for, generate, how many became a lead, all that sort of stuff. And then in GA4, there's something called a conversion event, which is really the same thing as an event with the added adjustment that you're just saying, this is a special one, so I want to keep it in this, I want to treat it as a conversion. So it's the same thing, purchase, generate lead, and click. I made those conversion events so you could see it here, but they are really the same events that are in this list. The difference is I don't have to go through a bunch of stuff to find purchase. I just have it here. I think that's really the biggest benefit of doing this. But you need to do it. You set up a conversion event and just say which events are really the conversion ones. So I could say which ones are really good at creating purchases. Then I can measure just for purchases coming through, and I can see the different traffic sources that create purchases, right? Remember, it takes time, and it just reset itself when I did it. It's how long it took. So again, hopefully it'll get a little faster, but you see it says purchase now. So here's all events, here's purchases by traffic source coming through. So that's how that works. Again, a little slower than Source Medium Report. And we're recording this as of the middle of January 2022. So January 12th technically is when this is being recorded. So hopefully GA4 has gotten substantially faster throughout the year of 2022, but it is there. Everything's there for us. And those would be the same actions that I can take with the Universal Analytics Source Medium Report is the same actions you can take with the GA4 Traffic Acquisition Report. Same basic structure, everything's in there. Just remember, in GA4, you have to set up those conversion events, just like in Universal Analytics, you have to set up goals or e-commerce, whatever the thing is that you're using for that. So that's that. The next one I wanted to show you is in the acquisition reports, you have Google Ads, you have Search Console. I think there are, if you're using Google Ads, it's just a matter of, especially if you're a Google Ads vendor, it's a matter of guiding the Google Ads traffic itself. I'm going to skip that because it appeals to some, but not others if you're not using Google Ads. But Search Console is one that you want to take a look at. Search Console is also very new in Google Analytics 4, but it now exists in Google Analytics 4 as well. The problem is not an easy to get into report set up for that. You have to start customizing stuff to get this. And this is where you start to see a split between Google Analytics 4 and Universal Analytics. Universal Analytics has a lot of these reports already built in. I want to see the landing pages for Search Console. So basically pages that are coming from organic traffic, and I can see the pages that organic traffic is sending to. I can see the different impressions. Now, this is from Search Console data, so this is specifically Google stuff, but I can see how many times did the measure marketing page show up in search results, how many times was it clicked on, and what's the click-through rate. And then I can see average position. So when, again, for whatever phrase they were typing in, the average position, number of sessions that were created from it in Google Analytics, what the bounce rate was, et cetera, and then the results. I can go through and see what the results. In this case, 9 purchases came from Google Organic after landing on the homepage. It's pretty good, right? Because that's not the page I would have thought that was creating that, but it did, which was nice. And then I can do that same thing over and over again. So what I'm going to use this report for in terms of actions, 2 things. One, I might have expected that the blog pages were getting more traffic. In my case, I see a lot of landing pages getting traffic. We know this because they say LP here, because that's what we designed our website to do, so it was easy for us to tell. And I can see that there's some traffic to pages that I didn't think were getting traffic still, like Google Analytics 4 Basics, right? Stuff like that. So in fact, that page probably needs to be updated, I'm sure by now. So I can go there and say, well, there's a page that needs to be updated because that one's been around for a while and it shouldn't be getting traffic, but it is because we've probably forgot to redirect it. So now we're going to go back and update that page. Actions, right? Because I see that it's here getting traffic from Google Organic. Other ones might be the blog post, right? And then saying, what are the blog posts actually creating leads? Like they might be designed, they should be designed to create leads, what we call Toolbox. So I can flip that to our Toolbox goal. Remember the goal I've already set up, which is why it's important that you have a setup. And I can come through and then I can say, well, what pages? I can go to this completions here. I'm just going to click this. And now I'm going to say, it's going to tell me top down what pages created leads. So I can see the Toolbox page created leads from Google Organic, which is cool. Remember, this is just Google, the search traffic. So that page is creating some leads. I can see our free resources page was creating leads. The UTM's blog post, the hacking sales funnel, creating some leads. Not a lot, especially with the traffic it's getting. Now, sorry, traffic is here. So the sessions are here. This is how many times it showed up in search results. So of those, we had 47 sessions started. Of those 47, 2 people ended up opting in as a Toolbox member. Okay, maybe that's okay, 5% ish. So I'm okay with that. I think that's okay for a blog post, right? So 4.26%. So that makes sense for a blog post because the blog post is there to educate. And then if they want to continue the journey, they can. But if I have another one down here like this one, so the Membership Academy, right? Not designed at all. Like this, is this bad? Not really, because it's designed to sell the Academy and it's not designed to get leads. So it's okay that it doesn't get a big percentage. Now, if I see another blog post where maybe if I click by conversion rate, which I'm going to do here, I'm just going to source this. Again, we're thinking about actions we can take from Google Analytics reports. When I source this, I can see which posts that are getting a ton of traffic, like the Toolbox, right? 30% opt-in rate for organic. Does that mean maybe I got some room to improve? Maybe, but that's pretty good for kind of colder traffic that's finding out about the Toolbox. But the free resources page, right? 26% opt-in rate. Then I go into different blog posts. Hacking is getting 5%. The UTM's roughly around 5%. The homepage, not so many, right? It makes sense. Homepage is a little more of a information page to get you to the next spot, so I'm okay with that. Top 5 mistakes, 3%. Now we're starting to get to blog posts that are not helping to actually get as many leads. Now remember, small numbers, admittedly, small numbers here, but it could be an action. I would basically take a much larger view of the time frame, expand out the time frame, and then if I start to see that same pattern, then this is basically half of what this is. And I'd be like, okay, well, let's go to this blog post, and maybe there's a way that we can make it work a little harder. Maybe put another call to action in there, where maybe the other ones have a call to action that this one didn't get for whatever reason. That's actions, that's insights that I can actually take to improve marketing results. In this case, the result of becoming a Toolbox member. So just to show you an example of how easy that is. Now remember, Google Analytics 4, It's not so easy to do that. You got to customize a bunch of stuff, and it takes a lot more effort than we can go into right now. But out of the box, Universal, this is why Universal is still the platform of choice for production right now. The final thing I'm going to show you under acquisition is this campaigns report. So under campaigns, I'm going to click where it says all campaigns. This is the only thing I want you using this report for. This tells you if you are properly structuring your UTMs when it comes to traffic. Are you properly identifying your traffic? You're going to see two things here. I'm going to show you ours, which is hopefully what you're seeing, but you're probably not seeing what you're about to see here. So you're going to see a bunch of campaigns. You should not see a lot, number one. You see we only have 15 different ones, and this is in the last 3 months. My guess is in your account, you're going to see hundreds of campaigns because they're all what we call fractured traffic. And that's what you're using this report for, is am I fracturing my traffic accidentally? Because a popular question that we get from students is, I'm just trying to figure out how all of our traffic sources are working together to cause a certain result, right? To move somebody through the customer journey. And then they don't identify the traffic sources properly, meaning they don't structure their UTMs properly. So how do you know if it's structured properly? This is how you know. You click into a campaign, which I'm going to do the Academy here. What you should see is a bunch of different source mediums, which I do. So now I can figure out how, or Google Analytics can figure out basically how all these different traffic sources are working together to cause a result as they move through the Academy journey. How do I do that? Because I have the results. I have the offer. So this is when they are aware of the Academy. I can tell when they engage with the Academy. I can tell when they purchase the Academy. The various stages of the journey, what we call ACE goals: aware, complete, and engage. So I'm measuring for those different stages. So I can click on Academy offer. Now I know I'm looking at just the Academy campaigns. This is all traffic designed in some way, shape, or form with the sole purpose of moving them through the Academy journey. And then I can see, okay, how's email doing at making them aware? Here's my partner traffic, which makes them aware. YouTube social traffic makes them aware, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I've got some podcasts that make them aware. So then I can say what's really good at completing, and I'll just skip the engagement thing for now. What's good at completing the journey? It's going to be different. Email, much better at completing the journey, which makes sense. It's supposed to. Partner traffic doesn't really do a great job of completing the journey, but it's not supposed to, so it's okay. So I can tell, is the traffic source working the way it's supposed to? Podcast traffic didn't at all, but that's okay. It's not supposed to. It's supposed to generate Toolbox leads. So I can come down here and say, well, part of the journey of the Academy is to create a Toolbox account, which is true for us. So then I can flip at the Toolbox and say, did it do its job? Yes, it did. Right? 41% opt-in rate from that podcast. This other webinar we did with Brian Kurtz, 45% opt-in rate, did its job. Right? I was speaking on stage, 35% coming through. Now, if your account, if you're going, man, how did he see that he was speaking on a stage, that he was doing a webinar, that he was on a guest podcast? I'm using UTMs. And the trick is they're all structured properly, so they all use the same campaign. My bet on what your account looks like right now is you will come into a campaign. In fact, I'm just going to show you because I love showing this stuff off all the time. So I'm just going to click into our demo account. And this is the Google Analytics store. So let's go to Universal very quickly here. And we're going to pull up their initial view. So what I would bet yours looks like is what theirs looks like. Because that's what everybody's looks like. So don't feel bad about this. But know that you have an issue here. So you see a bunch of campaigns. Remember, I had 15, they got 24. So there's a lot. So now if I click on any of these, and it says, okay, there's my campaign. What I should see is a bunch of source mediums. What I'm going to see, let's find out, is, boom, Google CPC. That's it. Why? Because for email, they use some other random archaic campaign. So for Facebook traffic, they use some other random campaign. For their social traffic that they're maybe doing, they use some other campaign name. Now, they were all for the same thing, but nobody coordinated anything. All the different traffic departments went their own way, and they siloed all their traffic, and now you can't see how they're working together. This is what most people do. It's 99.9% of the people do, because they don't think about it, because they don't know that this report is back here and can tell them that there's an error. So that's how you know. If you just see one source medium and that's it, you're not coordinating your traffic sources together into a big campaign. And you certainly should not see a bunch of fractured traffic like this, or else you're just not going to be able to get insights from Google Analytics to the level that you would otherwise want to. So that's that. That's the acquisition reports. I think the ones that are the most insightful to use there. So with that, let's go through and we're going to wrap this up with a couple of the other highlights I think are super important. I'm just going to flip this over here. We're going to get back to the measurementmarketing.io demo. All right. So now as I give this a chance to flip back, we're going to go into behavior. So the behavior reports in Google Analytics, Universal Analytics specifically, are all about what actions our users are taking. So we're going to click into where it says behavior. And in behavior, I'm going to go to site content, and then I'm going to use landing page. So site content and landing page. Actually, I'm going to do one other really quick one, which is all pages. All pages, the main reason I use this one from an insights perspective is, again, kind of like real-time reports. Like, is this thing working? So if I'm wondering if a certain page has any traffic going to it, or if the code is on the page, or if analytics has recorded any data about that page, I just type in, whatever the page name is. I can put a little fraction there in what they call the table filter, and it filters it. And these are all the different LP pages, our landing pages, because that's how we did ours, right? So I can see instantly it's there. Now, if I'm looking for a certain page that's not there, I could expand it out to make sure, or I just type in a little more detail. So let's say if I want to do the measurement mastermind or anything that starts with that page, I can see, is that page there? Maybe there's another page that I'm looking for that also contains measurement, and it's not there. Then I might go, I got an implementation problem. Maybe I forgot to put code on that page, or tag manager wasn't on there, or something like that, and I can fix it or have the team fix it. So just a little FYI. The other thing that's very important about this particular report that you can use for true setup implementation stuff is however your page looks here, we've customized ours. So ours shows the full domain, but however it looks here is what your goals should be set up if you're using destination goals in Google Analytics. So what we do is we look up how the page looks like here. We will then copy this part out, right? And we sort of say, okay, here's what this page is. We'll copy that, and then that becomes our destination goal setup. So again, a little more advanced because it's talking about setting up goals, but it's super easy. We have to go into when you set up goals, you want to make sure that you're asking Google Analytics to look in its database and say, I need you to go look in your database, however it was customized, look for this particular thing, and then if that thing shows up, fire a goal. And this is how you do it with all pages. It just bypasses a lot of stuff. So we also have a workshop on troubleshooting goals, and that one also talks about that technique in great detail. So we won't go into too much detail here, but it is an action you can take with the all pages. Now let's go into landing pages very quickly. Landing page report will tell us, again, the thing I'm asking for from an insight perspective is, does this make sense, right? Sometimes you'll see not sets. That is natural. It should not be a top traffic source or a top landing page for you. If it is, there might be something injecting details into your analytics, which sounds scary, but is not. In our case, it's like the chat widget or something like that. If somebody interacts with our chat widget, it injects details that say, oh, the chat was just fired and that sort of stuff. And there really was no landing page because that stuff was just injected into GA. So it's normal sometimes to see this. You shouldn't see a ton. It should definitely not be a top traffic source or a top landing page, or else there might be an implementation issue. So don't worry too much about these, but look and make sure that the landing pages that what you think should be your top landing page as a brand, is it? For us, absolutely, hands down, measurementmarketing.io should always be our top landing page. If it wasn't during a particular time frame, there better be a reason for that. Like maybe we made the academy, we did a big giant promotion, bunch of paid traffic or webinars or something like that, and that would explain a temporary bump up in the number one slot. But that's what I look for, to make sure that it's getting what it needs to get. Now, if I've just sent a bunch of traffic and it's not showing up here, let's say I sent a bunch of traffic yesterday and it's not showing up in the landing page report, I might have an implementation issue. So just a little FYI there. The other thing you can use for this report from an action standpoint is to make sure that you compare different pages. So I'm going to go and this is why we named our URLs like this. We did a workshop years ago about how to make your website easier to measure. This is why this is useful. So we put everything as landing pages. So now I have sort of a category type of page, right? Our landing pages that are designed to be landing pages. So I have all of my landing pages here. Then, because I have goals set up, those same goals that I use for source meeting report, I can use here, right? It's kind of the nice thing about Google Analytics, specifically Universal. So I can then say which landing page is better at achieving a certain goal. So if I wanted to, I could say, well, let's see the Academy offer. What page is the page I want them to go to be aware of the Academy offer? Now, I will tell you, spoiler alert, the actual landing page for the Measure Marketing Academy, this is the goal. So it's always going to be 100%. However, if I wanted to know in terms of a customer journey, when they start their visit on a certain page, which one is more likely to get them to actually become aware of the Academy, Well, you tell me if you're just looking at this data, which one? Now, obviously, forget about the Academy page itself because that makes sense that one's going to fire the goal. But what about the other ones? Well, I can see down here that the Measurement Marketing Academy promo page, okay, that makes sense. It's a promo page, so that's got it. But what about the certification page, right? Certification actually has some people going to it. But which one's better? Certification page or the bootcamp page? So far, certification page. What's the best at it? That's not an Academy page. Looks like just the win courses, right? This is the thing that actually shows all of our different courses. So the win courses page is better because it's a 20% conversion rate, 20% of getting them to go to the Academy and learn more about the Academy. But I'll give you a little secret. I think it should be higher than this. So my insight now is to go to the marketing team saying, listen, two things are wrong. One, I don't think we're getting enough traffic to this page, specifically as a landing page. And I'm wondering, maybe there's a campaign that they can do to say, hey, go check out the courses. And we could do a re-engagement campaign or a retargeting campaign that drives traffic to this page. And then the goal of this page, like, is this page working the way it's supposed to? The goal should be that it does get them to the Academy because it creates a bunch of interest and they see all the courses and the fun stuff and the details they can get. So they go back and they get the Academy. And so that's the idea. I would then, so I could take some actions. And one might be getting more traffic to this page. Two is improving the page design so it's more likely to achieve the goal that it is designed to achieve, which is not to let people know what all the courses are. Like, yes, of course it needs to do that. But for what reason? Why? So that they can go buy the Academy, become part of the Academy, and learn how to do all this cool stuff. So that's the idea of using the landing page report. And I can see, again, which landing pages specifically are good at doing stuff. I could do the same thing with the blog posts. Which blog posts are more likely, right? You just put them in and measure for all the blog posts coming through. So lots of cool things you can do with the landing page report. The exit page report I'm going to show you very quickly. This is I don't use this one a lot. But if you've ever wondered like which pages they're leaving on, this is that report. So which pages do they leave? They end the session. It was the final page they saw before they left your site. And you really just ask yourself, like, does this make sense? You see a lot of these little TY pages. These are thank you pages. So that means they've completed some sort of journey or process in our site and they're done. So it makes sense. Like, that's okay. Those make sense. Do I want them leaving a landing page? No, but will they? Of course, because we all do that. We go to a page and go, it's not for me, and we leave. So that will happen. But if there's a specific landing page that's happening on more than others, I might want to address that. So that's kind of where you can use the exit page report. And then finally, we're going to go into conversions. I'm going to show you a couple of things. Now, yes, you have the standard e-commerce. I go to product performance, and almost by habit, I always come into secondary dimension. I go to source medium because I want to make sure that my attribution is correct. I want to make sure that I see a variety of different traffic sources and mediums that are creating results. And I do. I see Direct None did some. I see Google Organic. I see Infusionsoft Email. I see CPC. I see YouTube Social. I see Bing Organic. I see the partner traffic did it. So a variety of traffic sources are causing a variety of purchases. So I already know I don't have an implementation issue. If you see only one traffic source doing all the work and it is Direct None, you might have what they call cross-domain problem. So you might have an implementation issue. I like this. This shows a good picture of a lot of different traffic sources causing results. And I can easily tell which ones are better at selling which particular product, which is really cool. Not to mention quantity and revenue and all the other yada yada stuff that you get from a typical e-commerce report. But that is really what I use it for, the secondary dimension and making sure that my attribution is intact. Because I can also measure this through the source medium, like which traffic sources are actually causing purchases. This is just good if you have a lot of products, like which products are really worth selling, which ones have maybe a better profit margin, if that's something that matters to you on a physical product, or which ones are more likely to sell, coming through there, which ones are your popular products that you want to really start advertising because they sell easier. You can see that there as well. So finally, I'm going to show you one other thing, and this is the two I'm going to show you here. One is reverse goal path. This is for those of you who have ever asked the question like, okay, they achieved the goal, but where were they before that? And where were they before that? And where were they before that? That's what this report shows you. So you can see the goal completion location. Right now I'm looking at just the Academy offer because that's what the goal is. All your goals are up here. So there's my Academy offer page. I can see this is where it was achieved. When they load this page, that's where it was achieved. This group, that the most popular path, is that they just landed on that page. There's a landing page, which is fine. How do I know it's a landing page? Because this says entrance. The previous step was, there was no previous step. They just entered. The rest of it was not set, right? There was no data. But the second most popular path is that they came from the home page. Then they came into the Measurement Marketing Academy page. Before the homepage, they just showed up, right? So they entered on the homepage, and then they went to the Academy. Then we see, let's say this one, for example. They went for the homepage, so they entered on the homepage. Then they went to the course catalog, right? This is like our third most popular path here, or fourth most popular path. So they went to the course catalog, then they went to the Academy page. So pretty cool stuff, right? That exists there. So this shows me, all I'm looking for here is it working the way it's supposed to work? And so far I see, yes, it is. It's either designed to be a lander, it's the homepage is sending traffic to the page, or the course page is sending traffic to the page, which is good. That's what I want. So that's how you use this report to make sure that, again, seeing the stages that led up to the actual completion of whatever the goal was that you were trying to get. The other thing I wanted to show you here was a goal flow report. This one's kind of cool because it's kind of funky. This is if you have set up goal funnels is how I would use this one. So goal funnels. So this is a specific goal, not all that exciting. A goal funnel is set up, and I have one here already. You just use go destination goals, turn on the funnel functionality, and define your different steps. And you'll see all of a sudden this thing lights up in a whole other way. Now there's actually a funnel. So I can see the source of traffic, going to the sales page, going to the cart, and then of those completing the journey, right? Hitting the actual purchase page. Again, all I'm asking myself is this working the way it's supposed to? Now, the cool thing about the goal funnel reports is I can click on this block and I can say highlight traffic through this block or explore traffic through the block. So I'm going to highlight it. Now look at that light up. Now I see the actual, whenever you've wondered like, we're just trying to figure out how people are using our site, or I'm just trying to figure out people moving through the store. Well, set up a goal funnel that you have and then think in your head first. This is very important, by the way. Think in your head first. How are they supposed to be doing that, right? How are they supposed to be moving through the store? What do you think is happening? Then you check your goal flow report and you see, wow, are there, for example, I might assume to myself, well, everyone's just going to go from one to the other to the other. But then you start seeing, well, actually they go from one to the other. Then they do come back to the cart and they go back. Why would somebody do that? It's because somebody was going to the cart, came up with some question or objection, and then came back. There was one time that we made a mistake. There was an actual mistake on the sales page. They were updating it. Somebody went too fast. We updated the page. All of a sudden, we saw this big giant loop back here, this little block that's right here. So this loop back, so it was huge. It was not a thin one. There's always going to be a little loop back. So that's a normal process. People do that, right? That's fine. But this was a big, giant, thick line of like, wow, there's a lot. Like everyone's going to the cart and then they're coming back to the sales page. We knew there was an issue. So we went to the sales page. What is causing people to go to the cart without the intention of buying? They're going to the cart to figure out something so they can go back to the sales page. That's why that line was so thick. I mean, it was like as thick as this one. It was massive. So then we found out we forgot to put the price on the page. Somebody was adjusting the offer part and the price didn't get up on the button. So you had to go to the cart to figure out the price. That was not some sly marketing trick. That was just, we forgot. And so we saw that, was like, well, that's stupid. Let's not do that, because why make that amount of friction? So we fixed the button, put the price back on where it's supposed to be. Everything went back to normal. We still have loopbacks because that's what happens. That's okay. It would be confusing if it didn't have a loopback to some extent, but it should never be a big, giant, thick loopback, or there's an issue there. And we knew what actions we were going to take. We were going to the sales page saying it's definitely not giving somebody information. They're going to the cart to find information, because that's the only reason they would loop back to the sales page, was because they were trying to find an answer on the cart when they shouldn't have to. So that's what we did, and we fixed it. And it was because of the goal flow report that we could see it. And a lot of people don't know it does all this, but it's super cool. When you highlight traffic through different parts, that's what lights up all these little sub paths. And you see, oh, actually, there's a lot of people going directly to the cart. We don't have retargeting campaigns. So for me, that's interesting that some of this stuff is going to the cart. Because I'm like, that's unexpected, that we have that. If we did have a retargeting campaign, I would want to be able to see it. I would be able to pull it up on my source medium, or by a certain medium or type, or, ad content, or however I'm using my UTMs. And then I can see, okay, are they actually landing on the cart they were supposed to? Are they skipping the page, going to the cart? And of those people, like, let's say, for example, if I click on this line right here, of the Infusionsoft traffic that's going to the cart directly as a landing page, are they converting? Looks like they are, right? We have some that actually did, because I see these little teeny lines coming through. And some of them actually ended up looping back as well, still to the cart, and came back to the sales page later in the journey to find out more information. So that stuff happens. But anyway, that's kind of the cool part of the goal flow. Now, if you're wondering to yourself, wow, you just stopped talking about GA4 all of a sudden. That is true. The reason is because it became a whole lot harder in GA4 to get these very simple answers. For example, landing page report. All Pages report. Where do you grab this stuff? Well, if you think about All Pages report, the closest we have is Pages and Screens. So we come into the Pages and Screens under engagement, and then we'll give it time because it takes time. And we'll come down here and you see all these different page titles and screens. Where are the URLs? They are not here. So you have page path, query string, and clean class. That's the closest you can get to it, but it's not the default. And you're not used to thinking about your website by page title. So you're used to looking at your website by URL. They should absolutely switch this. Absolutely switch this to make it a default of Pages, but because it requires you to do this. Then you can start to see it by URL. Now you notice it's different here because we haven't customized this one with our full domain name because this one doesn't allow that, right? This is just what it would look like. And there's other things you can do to do that, but it requires a lot of work right now to get it there. So we're not going to go down the rabbit hole, but this is the built-in, which you can get close to what the other one looked like, and you can kind of use some of those things as well. So that's one thing. But how do you get the landing page? You have to build your own report. And you have to do what they call these analysis. We used to be called analysis. Now they're called explore reports. And you have to create a free-form exploration report for landing pages. Google that. There's lots of ways to do that. It's more of a complicated thing, unfortunately, right now. Eventually, what I expect to happen with GA4 is there's this little library feature. I think they're going to make GA4 a much more shareable thing so that people can create these reports for us. And then they might have already even done it. And then you can come down and you can basically import reports that other people have created, like landing page reports, and you can go through here. You can see people are already doing that. I've done some on my own, but there's other stuff that's here. So you can get some other reports. I'm thinking maybe something like that's going to come down the path. But again, it's going to be a little while. So just keep GA4 as like knowing that it's something that you will have to use, knowing it is not ready, despite what Google has said over and over again. It is not ready for prime time at all, but it is ready to start learning. That is 100% true. But landing page report doesn't exist. You got to create that. It's a hard thing to create. Not super easy. Not technically hard, but it requires a number of steps and more than it should. I think eventually they'll start fixing that stuff. Monetization reports. E-commerce does exist. So I can get to my e-commerce purchases, but remember, you have to set up e-commerce specifically for GA4. But once you do that, you will actually see the e-commerce products come through just like with Universal Analytics. Remember, it has to be set up. It's not going to just automatically import all that stuff. But once it's set up, and you can see I've already clicked on it, you see how slow, unfortunately, GA4 is, and this is normal right now for this product. But when it shows up, again, you sort of have the same general design, which you have to scroll down to get to where you really want. There's the Academy pages that are coming through with purchases. Now, this stuff that just shows item views, add to carts, cart detail rate, we don't use that. We have purposely not set this up. We just use it to track the purchases and then revenue, right? So that's all we have back here. Again, different date range. That's why it didn't match the other one. But that's actually, this works fine. This is how we want it. This is all we need. You can set yours up in Universal Analytics. If you're familiar, there's this thing called enhanced e-commerce. That's kind of what this is by default. It's not called enhanced e-commerce. It's just e-commerce in GA4. But you would have to set the stuff up in order for it to start fulfilling. We don't need it. It's because we're not an e-commerce store. So we just track the purchases and the amounts, and that's good for us. So there's that particular point too. Now, when you think about flow reports, there are what they call path reports. They're not as useful as the flow reports are for the loop backs. You just can't get those as much. Instead, you see this path exploration report. So the freeform report is how you would create landing pages. I think the funnel reports are amazing for Google Analytics 4, so you should explore those because you can create funnels. And just like in Universal, when you create a funnel, you have to wait for it to collect data, but not with GA4. It's one of the huge pros. Like, as much as there are things that really need to be improved and worked on with GA4, there's a lot that they're doing incredibly well. Like, again, I don't like where it is. I love where it's headed. And you should get practice with it because it's clunky and you got to practice. You just have to. I'm going to tell you like it is. You have to practice GA4. It's not going to be intuitive or easy. Do not delay your learning of this platform. But funnels are really good for that. The path exploration is what you would use for the closest thing to a goal report. You also have segment overlaps you can build. You can have this user explorer. I don't think that's particularly useful, but when you want to see an individual user, you can see all the stuff they did. Again, I don't think that for me goes to the creepy aspect, so I don't think it's even useful. who cares about one fish in the ocean's doing? I want to see where most of the fish are most of the time. So I like trends and patterns. So I don't really use this one a lot. Cohorts, I don't use because I do them with spreadsheets, but you can. They're a little more useful in GA4. User lifetime report, again, I don't use it because it's only as good as what GA4 knows. And lots of people block analytics. And there's going to be more people blocking analytics in the future. So you only use this for trends and patterns. In our way of doing it, we actually do it with spreadsheets, and we pull it from the cart system directly, and we bypass using Google Analytics for anything user lifetime oriented. I just care about trends and patterns and behaviors. That's what analytics platforms are really good at. In my opinion, that's where they should stay. So just trends and patterns of how people are using the site, and man, it becomes such a powerful thing. So with that, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, the big, hopefully the learnings, you got a few learnings of how you can use GA4 out of the box, but the real learning with the insight, the action with GA4 is to start learning it and practicing it and getting used to it, because it's not the most intuitive thing in the world. With Universal, which will still be around for at least a good year or two, I would imagine, before they start deprecating, you still have a good runway. Play with this one. Learn this stuff. Use this stuff. Use the campaign report. Use whatever it was that you went through. When you think about your one thing, what action that you can actually take, that is what is most important. And remember, related to the framework, the only reason I can ask some of the questions that I'm asking with our analytics and the actions that I can take is because I have the results measured using ACE goals, the aware, complete, and engage for different journeys and paths. I have my traffic coordinated, not just using UTMs, using them properly and coordinating them, which reminds me, remember, the traffic tracking toolkit is what you can use that'll help you with that. It's a free tool we have back there, and Academy members have it as well. And then, of course, connecting the dots with a story, making sure that it's properly set up and customized so it's easier to see the story that is actually back there. All right, so next week's workshop is using Data Studio to measure your customer journey, speaking of measuring. And we do use Data Studio for most of our things. We don't use GA4 reports for most things because it is so much easier, like monumentally easier to use Data Studio. So we just focus on that. We're going to end up probably not doing a lot in GA4 other than using it to store information, which is what it's there for. It's perfect for that. So we're going to use it for that. We're going to do everything in Data Studio, and we'll show you about using how to measure the user journey there. Probably still with Universal Analytics, but if you want to see that particular workshop, just make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell. It'll make sure to notify you, and we'll go from there. The other way you can do this is becoming a Measurement Marketing Toolbox member. I mentioned the free tools we have, like the traffic tracking toolkit and stuff like that. That's in the Toolbox membership. So it is completely free. You also get access to the most recent Workshop Wednesday as well. So just for convenience, just go to measure.tips/WW, name an email. That will create your account, and you'll have access to all of the tools. The only thing we ask is that you use it. So if it's something that's not of use for you, eventually we will ask you to maybe just look at the YouTube channel instead, so that we're not pestering you with marketing messages that you don't want. But measure.tips/WW to create your free Toolbox membership. And then finally, the Measurement Marketing Academy itself. Remember, we created the membership, the Academy, to help you through this process, because you don't go through the framework once. You go through it thousands of times. We definitely are thousands of times at this point. You're going to go through it over and over and over again. Every time you do, you build measurement muscle. You think differently. You don't get so worked up when somebody changes something, like when Safari changes something, or when Apple comes out with some new iOS update that destroys privacy or locks things down so you can't, you don't care about that anymore because you understand measurement. And yes, we teach you how to use Tag Manager and Google Analytics and Data Studio because they are free tools and they are incredibly powerful. But we really help you to understand measurement. And when you understand measurement, the tools become so much easier to use, period. If you try to just use the tools without understanding measurement, you're going to run into frustration. But if you understand measurement and you understand why you're using the tools, then when the tools change, which they will, guaranteed, it's not a big deal. You just kind of roll with it because you understand measurement. So a very quick tour of what is back there in the Academy. So this is the main dashboard. When you come in, you have access to these 6 blocks. We've got the content sections here, and then we've got support as well. So the 3 different support blocks. So in the content, you've got win courses. These are traditional courses. Every 4 to 6 weeks, we are either doing a new course or an update to an existing course. It's how we keep things updated. It's a popular question. I bought some person's analytics course and it wasn't updated. The last time it was updated was 2 years ago. That's too old. You can't do that. You got to update these things pretty frequently. So we do. So you can see this last one was updated in November 2021. This is why we do it by date, so you can instantly see. This one is actually getting updated next week, actually. So this will be in January 2022. So this will be coming out. Then before that, used to retargeting. We had a new one with Google Analytics 4. Actually, this was an update. We did a new one with the server-side, Tag Manager server-side one in August we did. So that'll be coming up for its update later this year. So you can see them updated by date. Then, of course, by topic. So here's all the Google Analytics stuff, how to set it up, get a proper story, then how to use it with UTMs and goals. We talk about that here. The Beyond Basic stuff is for customization, custom dimensions, all that sort of fun stuff you can do. We have an entire one just on Google Analytics 4. Getting used to that. And that one actually is going to be coming up for a redo in another, I think, 3 months. We're also going to be doing a boot camp on that coming up next month, a live boot camp for those that want that. Tag Manager. So you've got all the Tag Manager stuff, basics, Beyond Basics, etc. Data Studio and dashboards, reporting, even using Google Sheets, right? So all that sort of stuff is back here. And then what I think is the most important stuff, how do you think about all this? What's the strategies you use? How do you optimize? How do you actually forecast? All of that stuff's back here as well. How do you do, regular expressions or manage through cohort reporting, like for churn when you do a recurring site? We have a whole thing on retention, churn, and stick, right? How to measure that. It's just basic math, but it can be confusing. So we have an entire course for it. So that's the traditional win courses. That is just this section. That's it. Then there's the on-demand stuff. So that's here. Remember I said you also have access to the most recent Workshop Wednesday. That's always going to be here. And then you've got access as an Academy member to the edited versions, which obviously this stuff is taken out of them. And you've got Zoom effects and things like that. What we call student editions. They're much faster to get through, so you don't have to watch the Workshop Wednesdays every single week. You just need them. When you need them, you can get them. They're organized by the editions, so the What's New editions, the Getting Started editions, the Beyond Basics editions, the Strategy sessions. So you can kind of get caught up on whatever it is. You don't have to watch these each week. But I do, most of our members will come in and they get caught up. So maybe once a month they'll come in here and then watch a few workshops to get caught up on whatever section is most important to them. You can also search. So you can go through and you can search for a particular topic. It will search the entire workshop library. It will also search the courses. So you can go through the lessons and see kind of what the different goals are or the different topics that pertain to what it is that you're trying to do for goals. So all of this, these two sections, the win courses and the on-demand workshops, they are there for you 24/7 whenever you want. 3 a.m, you want to learn how to set up goals, we can help you out. The Academy's there for you. Finally, you've got the Toolbox. Remember, this is the resources. I said we're free for Toolbox members, which is true. All of these tools are free for Toolbox members, including Traffic Tracking Toolkit, the one I've been mentioning a bunch of times, so make sure you go through there. But the Academy members open up a whole other section, which is this Get It Done guides. The way that these actually go through is they are a page that is kind of like a craft kit. So it's like once you know how to use Tag Manager and Analytics and Data Studio, you're going to want to do some cool stuff. So one of the things we talk about a lot is the Eyes on the Journey report. It's one of our key reports that you should absolutely be using to figure out what the conversation is between the user and the page that they're on. And so we go through and actually have a video on how to set that up. We have templates and everything like that. So again, once you learn how to use the tools, what can you do with the tools? That's what the Get It Done guides are all for. So we have those exclusive to Academy members. So those 3 blocks are the content, and you will need help and support. You will. We expect that. We've developed the Academy knowing that you're going to have that. So the Winner Circle is the first place you can go. That is for members helping members. It's peer group support. And the reason I bring this particular one up is because I'm particularly happy that we finally got this one up and running. This is like minutes old, hours old, I guess, of this recording, which is why there's no discussions back there, because our members don't even know this exists. You're one of the first ones to know. We now have a job board. That's been a popular request. People asking us like, I want to be able to offer my services, or I want to ask somebody for help and pay them, right? Find somebody who can do this stuff for me, or a specific thing that's measurement. So this is where members can now exchange services back here as well. So that was a new feature. Otherwise, it's just asking questions around data dashboards, measurement strategy, getting help from somebody who maybe is an expert in Facebook ads, because we don't know Facebook ads. So members ask each other back here, hey, who knows Facebook ads and this little section I'm trying to do? And then some other Facebook ads agency will help them out. So pretty cool back here, members helping members. So that's the one support feature. The most popular one, though, is this, the Ask an Instructor Support. That looks like this. So when you come back here, you go to ask a question, pops this little up, pop in your question, send over screenshots and videos, put in the details of whatever the thing is that you need, but definitely links to screenshots and videos. This goes to our instructors. They watch your videos, your screenshots. 9 times out of 10, they are also responding with videos and screenshots, because there's nothing better than talking to somebody who gets you, who understands marketing, which they all do. They understand why you are trying to measure stuff. They're not just Data Studio geeks or Google Analytics geeks or Google Tag Manager geeks. They're measurement geeks who understand marketing, which is what makes them measurement marketing instructors. So they understand what you're trying to get to. You can talk to them about anything. If If you have a question over strategy, we have students that will come in and say, hey, here's my website. I'm not quite sure what my ACE goal should be. I'm thinking it's this, but I wasn't sure. I wanted to get your opinion. Instructors will fire back. Here's why. And they're designed to teach you. They're not going to give you yes, they will give you answers. Don't get me wrong. But they're really there to help you learn measurement. So they're going to give you some answers where it's necessary. They might recommend a certain course or something like that to go through in the academy. But they're there to help you build your measurement muscle. Other people will have a technical question. So it's like, I'm in tag manager and this event isn't firing and I'm not sure why, this new GA4 thing we're doing. I need help. And they show us a picture of their setup or a video of their setup. And the instructor say, oh yeah, here you go. Just check this little box. Here's why that works, blah, blah, blah. So tactical questions, perfectly fine. Strategic questions, perfectly fine. As long as it's measurement oriented. This is the best absolute resource. It's what the vast majority of our members use. And a little pro tip, when you're new to the academy, introduce yourself to the instructors. So many of our members are doing that now, which has worked out really well. The instructors love it. You can actually build a relationship with instructors. They start asking for them by name, which is really cool. It's as close as you can get to having like a consultant on call. Answers within hours, not days. It's not real-time support, but it is real close. Answers within hours, not days. 24 business hours is what we request for those. But it is a fantastic way to basically talk with somebody, get a fresh pair of eyes on something, get some technical help, chat it out. It's just absolutely fantastic. So that's the Ask Instructor Support. And then there's the Manage Account section. That really is just, I lost my password kind of support. Need to make account updates, upgrades, downgrades, all that stuff happens back there. So that's your traditional account management as you might expect. So that is the Measurement Marketing Academy in a nutshell. I think the highlights really are the courses, the Ask Instructor Support for sure, the on-demand workshop library, and that winner circle community of people who understand measurement, because we're all measurement marketers back there, and that's kind of cool. So the courses themselves, you get access to every course that is available, all updates, all new courses. It doesn't matter. Nothing's limited for you back there. If it's something that's publicly available, you got access to it. So those are the win courses. So at least a $4,000 value, because we used to sell those for a couple hundred a pop. There are now closer to 20 or 30 of those at this point. So substantial value back there. The Ask Instructor Support, you get it all. So that is unlimited support for the entire year that's back there. So, it's at least worth $5,000 to have somebody on call for the entire year that can help you out with whatever you need. Then the on-demand workshop library, there are hundreds of workshops back there that are searchable in that database. We used to sell those for $20 a pop back in the day when we first started. That is how we started, actually, was building out the library. But now, at least over $5,000 in value there. The Winner Circle community, just being a part of a group for $1,000 a year, easily worth that. To be able to talk to people who are like-minded, who understand measurement, but might have expertise in other areas. Like, that's a really cool resource. So all told, over $15,000 in training and support that's back there if you bought all this stuff separately. But you don't have to do that, obviously. So it's a lot lower than $15,000 a year. Just go to Measurement Marketing Academy. You'll see the different options that are there. This is where the time is. I would invite you to join. So again, to do that, just go to measure.tips/getacademy. It'll take you right to the most current offers that are currently available. And we look forward to you being a part of the Measurement Marketing Academy soon. All right. With that, we'll go ahead and officially wrap this one up. It's been Getting Started. How to use Google Analytics reports to guide actions. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.